The SOAR playbook finds all copies, quarantines them, and removes them from every mailbox automatically.
Automation is no longer the villain, it's the hero that shows up when we need it the most. Hi everyone and welcome to Inside the Mesh. I'm Diego Ramirez and today we have a fantastic guest, Simran Jodh, who is the manager of the innovation team at Bell Cyber. Simran, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Diego. Always excited to jump into these topics, especially when we are talking about making security operations smarter and more efficient through automation and AI.
Exactly, Simran. So let's get into it. I want to talk a little bit about automation, artificial intelligence, and autonomous SOC operations. Why do you think that's a hot topic nowadays, Simran? Why is it so important?
So it's really about doing more with less, like scaling up while keeping pace with the growing threats. Now, SOC teams have always struggled with endless alerts and manual work. Automation gives them a break from all that noise so that they can focus on what really matters. It clears the backlog, improves response time, and as well as SOC efficiency.
That's correct. So I remember 10 years ago when I started working in this industry, I used to do a lot of manual work. I used to create incident tickets manually. I used to run my investigations, mostly copying and pasting information from one side to the other. I used to block IPs on the firewalls and revoke user sessions using these cloud applications. I don't know, Office 365, Microsoft Entra ID, or any of these platforms that are utilized for that. But nowadays, it seems like we can automate almost 80% of these responses and 80% of these tasks.
Exactly. So automation frees analysts from repetitive tasks so they can focus on impact analysis and not just gathering data. Now, it's the difference between constantly reacting to alerts and actually understanding what's going on.
Now let's talk about AI, or artificial intelligence. This is the buzzword that has taken over all the conferences ever since 2022, I guess.
Yeah, so AI is becoming the intelligence layer for automation. It's not just if this, then that rules anymore. AI is changing how we deliver automation. Now, think of AI as giving automation a sense of awareness. Like traditional playbooks follow a script. AI helps them improvise while eliminating the need of custom individual playbooks.
And there's Gen AI, something that you have been working with quite a bit recently, right?
Yeah, so generative AI has been huge help in enrichment of alerts and incident tickets. Like it helps us to summarize the incident, draft initial response, and define containment strategy, and also provide input to SOAR to take automated remediation actions.
Simran, from your experience, do you think that a good combination between AI and autonomous playbooks and SOC operations will replace the role of a cyber intelligence analyst?
Yes and no. You have probably heard multiple times we at Bell Cyber believe it's not going to completely eliminate the human role, it's going to elevate it. Like instead of spending time on repetitive triage, they will focus on impact analysis, incident handling, and coordination. They will be focusing more on improving detection rules, tuning playbooks, and recommending ways to strengthen the overall security posture.
Correct, and that's where we see the magic, right? Analysts are no longer spending too much time coming up with the summary of the incident, maybe grabbing some attributes from the incident itself and manually putting them into an investigation or anything else that requires any manual intervention, right? From my point of view, I feel that we're helping them to maximize their efficiency so that they can take on more complex tasks, and they can also take on creating playbooks and creating strategies towards helping our clients and towards building more complex investigations as well.
Exactly. It's not replacing humans. When we talk about autonomous SOC, the concept is early detection, prioritization, and faster containment, and in some cases, remediation without waiting for a human click. So it's not about removing humans, it's about repositioning them.
Simran, before we address the core topic of today's episode, which is the autonomous SOC and the autonomous SOC operations, I would like your feedback on how important is the integration between all the tools before we move into the real topic.
Like integration is everything. Now, you have the most advanced SOAR platform in the world, but without tight integration into your environment, like your identity systems, your endpoints, your firewalls, or your email gateway, it's just another silo. Now, the real fun happens when these systems talk to each other in real time. That's when automation becomes actionable, that is, detecting and containing threats across the full attack surface.
Let's start with identity. How are we integrating our autonomous playbooks with Microsoft Entra ID, for example?
Great question. So, a simple use case with Azure Entra ID is we use automation to respond instantly when a high confidence malicious indicator is tied to a user account. So, for example, if account is flagged for suspicious sign-ins or session token theft attempt. Now, our SOAR playbook can automatically disable the user, revoke active sessions, and trigger an MFA reset.
What about the endpoints? How are we integrating with EDR solutions for automated containment?
So endpoints are one of the most active areas for automation. Now, we integrate directly with EDR solutions like Defender for Endpoint and CrowdStrike. The most basic use case is isolating the endpoint automatically. Now, if there are indicators of compromise, say a host starts communicating to a known command and control IP. Now, with the AI-driven analysis, which is integrated with the threat intelligence, we'll validate the threat intel, and if confidence is high, it will isolate the endpoint. Now, let's just take in a case of a server. Now, where there could be a business impact, the SOC analyst then follows the incident management plan to coordinate with incident response teams while working with the application owner on business continuity and disaster recovery.
We also need to address emails, for example. That's how employees are communicating with the outside world, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so like in, for example, Office 365, now if malicious email or attachment is detected, the SOAR playbook finds all copies, quarantine them, and removes them from every mailbox automatically. Now, it even generates a summary report for the analyst, so no manual cleanup is also required.
Correct. So now we can basically say that automation and the AI enhancements are basically turning isolated actions into a coordination or into a coordinated mechanism that blocks threats and contains threats before they can harm the organizations, right?
Yes, exactly. Now, the more your system talks to each other, the faster and smarter your SOC becomes.
Simran, you've been on the road quite a bit lately. First, you went to the East Coast sharing the message about the autonomous SOC, and then you went to the West Coast and you met with CISOs and leaders in the industry. What's the response being like?
Honestly, I never imagined I would be traveling this much. We have a great leadership at Bell Cyber, and I have been really fortunate, not just to take our solution across the country, but to explore more of our beautiful Canada along the way. Now, it's been an incredible journey, meeting security teams in every region and hearing how they're adjusting to this shift towards the automation and AI driven operations.
That's amazing. And I'm pretty sure they have asked you a million things and they have shared with you their feedback. So how does that feel and what's their feedback in a nutshell?
It's been incredible. Honestly, there's this shift happening. Like few years ago, the moment you mention automation, people would tense up like, oh no, that's how we take the whole network down. But that's the mindset changing. A few years ago, just saying the word automation would make people nervous. It had a bit of a bad reputation. Everyone remembered then automation rule gone wrong stories or the ones accidentally shutting down the whole network and quarantining the wrong systems.
Exactly, Simran. I've lived through a couple of those experiences and use cases, and one of them still sticks with me that happened 10 years ago approximately. We had a client who had just rolled out a next gen firewall, and everything looked great on paper. However, there was an automated IPS rule that went live, and within minutes it blocked all the network traffic. The entire production plan went dark, and no one had tuned these false positives or properly scoped the automation rules, so what should have been a minor update turned into a full-scale outage. When the power plant is down, it's not just the systems, right? You've got hourly workers who can't clock in, production quotas slipping, and financial losses stacking up by the minute. The outage lasted for almost 18 hours before we had to roll everything back to the old firewall just to get them operational again. That experience really drove home how bad governance and poor testing, well, not just automation itself, can cause chaos.
And that's the story so many leaders remember, like those painful early automation missteps that made everyone cautious for years. But what's changed now is the maturity of both the tools and the people managing them. We are not just flipping switches anymore. Like, we are designing automation with proper validations. Now, organizations are seeing that when automation is done right, it's not dangerous, it's actually powerful.
So you're saying there has been a big mindset change, right?
Definitely. So, what I'm hearing now are much more mature conversations. Leaders are asking, how do we phase automation safely, or what's the right confidence level for full containment? How aggressive of an approach do we take? Like defining specific use cases for automation, like not everything can be automated, and we're not using automation just because we can. It's more about what needs to be automated. And I think it's because people now understand the urgency. When we are dealing with high confidence and verified malicious indicators, and waiting for manual approval isn't realistic anymore. Attackers are moving at machine speed, and so we need automation that can counter them even faster.
So that's the essence of the autonomous SOC. Machine speed powered by human intelligence who help our analysts to get better and faster response times and to accomplish their goals, which at the end of the day is to support our clients and to support their cybersecurity operations.
Yes, absolutely. Now, organizations are no longer asking why automate, they're asking how can we automate more effectively. It's a great sign, like the industry is finally seeing the automation as a core defense capability and not a liability.
Also, we need to understand that automation is not a one-time thing that you configure and then you forget about it. You need to continue tuning it. You need to continue enhancing it, making it a lot faster and better, of course.
That's why we always emphasize governance first. You don't start by automating the riskiest part of your environment. You start small, like enrichments, data collection, ticket creations, and that helps in building the confidence. Then expand to containment and remediation once you have validated the accuracy and trust.
And trust is so important, right? Once we and our people see that their jobs are getting a lot easier, they can focus on different and complex tasks and not always the same old manual intervention and manually putting things into incidents and investigations, right?
Yes, and that's what I've seen across the country. Like the moment teams realize automation isn't there to replace them, but to protect them from burnout, their whole attitude shifts. And that's when innovation really starts to happen, when people feel safe experimenting.
And it's needed. Attackers are using automation, so they are going at a really fast pace right now. So it only makes sense that we go at the same pace or above that.
Exactly. And that's why at Bell Cyber, we have seen such a positive response. Like the message about the autonomous SOC is resonating so strongly. It's not theoretical anymore, it's operational, and we have been using it since summer 2025. If a detection is high confidence and verified malicious, there's no reason to wait for a human click to approve things.
So it's not a matter of over automating. It's automating intelligently, right? Making sure that the right thresholds have been set, making sure that the right responses have been set as well, that the right containment actions and playbooks are in place, so that we can come up with a really smart and really intelligent strategy that help our clients.
Yeah, and if we can trust automation to help us drive cars, why can we not trust it to isolate a malicious endpoint?
I like that comparison. Basically, automation is no longer the villain. It's the hero that shows up when we need it the most. Simran, before we wrap up, what's next? You've been driving so much progress on automation, on our autonomous SOC and all our AI strategies within the SOC. Where do you see the next wave of innovation coming from?
First off, it's a team effort. None of this happens in isolation, and our CTO Javed Ahmed, or as our CEO calls him, the godfather of the autonomous SOC, along with Yash and Gurveer, our automation engineers, are the real brains behind this evolution. I play a small role mapping security operations into automated use cases, but these guys are the ones who bring those ideas to life.
I like how you're being humble, Simran, but I completely agree. Having support and alignment from the top management really makes the difference. And without the larger team's collaboration, none of this would be possible. So once again, shout out to the dynamic duo, Gurveer and Yash at Bell Cyber. Simran, coming back to the next question, what's next?
Right now, we are exploring how to leverage AI for vulnerability management, particularly in reporting, impact analysis, and prioritization. There is so much data in that space that we are using AI to help make sense of it faster, figuring out which vulnerability truly matters to the business, not just which ones have the highest CVS scores. Now, we are also really focused on reducing alert noise. The goal is to help the SOC continuously identify what's normal versus what's malicious. It sounds simple, but for an MSSP managing hundreds of clients, defining normal is incredibly complex. Now, every environment behaves differently, and we have to ensure we don't miss a single attack vector. I have been researching how AI can assist with that, like helping models learn and adapt per client, so we can fine tune detection and response at scale without drowning in false positive or benign events.
Simran, thank you for joining us during today's episode.
Thanks for having me, Diego. Always a pleasure.